Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I am finally wrapping up Got a Thing for winter because winter is over now in February and we are going into spring, so Got a Thing for spring will be up very soon after this. So I'm wrapping up my seasonal challenge, and if you don't know, Got a Thing for season is a seasonal challenge, which I just said, and I read 4 books every month for any different seasons, so it's like 3 months, 4 books, 12 books altogether. And yay, we are continuing with it, and I'm wrapping up from December to February now, so that's kind of weird because it's last year, but we're just rolling with it. Let's just get started. The first challenge for December was called Sparkle. It was to choose a book with a black author or with a black main character with a holiday theme. Not theme, I don't know what happened there. And I chose Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory, and this one is like kinda the 4th one in this series, but you can read them like independent of each other. I took this just because it's Royal Holiday, so we're in the middle of Christmas time and we follow Vivian and her daughter Maddie. They go to England because Maddie is like a stylist for like a duchess there, and they meet the queen and everything in England, and the mother Vivian meets also this dude, what was his name? Malcolm, and he works for the queen. It's like her secretary and stuff, and they get a thing and it's very cute. It's short, fluffy, fun, some hilarious moment. My favorite moment was when they were in this restaurant and there was this couple beside them eating spicy food, and the dude was basically like exploding because he just kept drinking water when eating spicy food, which was not that smart, and they kept laughing and I kept laughing, and also Malcolm was just like such a romantic, treating Vivian so well, and I was all for it. Yeah, the end went kinda, you know, in a bit of an unexpected way, but that's how it is in romances. And overall just very cute, and you know, it fit really well. Like, it didn't need to be Christmas themed thing, it was just a holiday theme in a challenge, but I chose Christmas themed just because we were in December. I gave this 3 or 4 out of 5 stars. I don't really remember, but what does star rating matters? Really, that was a sentence. I'm sorry. The next challenge was called Mana and Potions, and it was to choose a book with indigenous representation. For that one, I read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I can never say Jones, and I don't know why. It's a struggle. And this one is a thriller horror novel with all indigenous characters, obviously, and it follows basically this friend group that 10 years ago hunted these elk, and now 10 years later they're being hunted themselves. And I was very excited for this because I've been seeing it so much around and I heard so many good things about it, but overall I was actually very disappointed in it. I feel like it just went super expected where it was supposed to go, and in a thriller horror book I wanted to be a bit more surprised and be like a bit more shocking. For me it wasn't even creepy, it was just like this thing is happening and we knew all was happening, and then like it concluded. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it was a bit creepy and stuff, and I think maybe, for example, as a movie, short TV show, it could have been maybe better for me, but overall like I didn't like reading it, and also I did not like the writing style, like for me at all. It did not fit for me, so I was quite disappointed in this, and that was disappointed in itself because I was very excited for it and I wanted to read it for a long time. But yeah, I ended up giving like 3 out of 5 stars, and now I just feel like disappointment inside of me. So that was sad, but whatever. The next challenge was called Daydream, and it was to choose a fairy tale with a POC main character, and I chose Song of the Crimson Flower by Julie C. Dow, and this one is the 3rd book in the Rise of the Emperor series, but not really like a third book, because the first book in the series is a Evil Queen retelling, the second book is a Snow White retelling, and this one I don't even know what kind of retelling this is, because yeah, it's kind of like a curse thing and stuff, and it feels like a fairy tale, so I call it a fairy tale, but I don't think like it's a direct retelling. I don't even know actually. So yeah, I just chose this because all the books in this series is like a fairy tale-esque feel, so like I call it a fairy tale book. That is me breaking the rules for my own challenge, but it's fine. But yeah, this one followed, what was the name of the characters, because all the characters are Asian, by the way, because it's like an Asian setting world thing, because it's set in the same world as the other 2 books. Oh my god. It follows Lan, who rejects this dude who is called Bao, and then Bao gets cursed, and then she now needs to help him, and it's just like a lot of other things going on. We see the characters from the other books in the series, and it's just really nice to see them again, but now a few years later, seeing how they are, and I know, trying to break this curse, going out on this journey. And overall I just really enjoy this whole series. They are so much fun, so easy and just light reads, and just the setting, the originality, the mythology and background for everything I adore. So overall, just a solid book. I read it in December. I don't know what you expect me to remember. I like the most also that we got some conclusion from the characters in like the last book, even though this is later not really following them, and I really enjoyed that. So yay. And the conflict was cool. Not cool, like, yeah. Like, everything was solid. 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay. And the last challenge for December was called End of 2020. It was to choose a book released in 2020 with a black LGBT plus main character. And for that one, I read All the Boys Are Blue by George M. Johnson. This one I also talked about in my December favorites because it was so good. It follows George, but it is also like a non-fiction / memoir book, but a YA one, because George wanted to write a story where teens could find hope and representation for them. George is black, queer, and it is just them growing up and seeing them grow up as black and queer, and just seeing the relationship to the family and friends and experiences with, for example, sex and racism and homophobia and many different things. And it was just so good. Just reading about these experiences is not just important, but it was also just very emotional. You cared so much about what was going to happen. You cared about their life, and that is like, I don't know, it was just solid story. It made me tear up because it was beautiful, especially in the end. It was very sad, and I want kind of more. I want to see more of George's life, but like, life goes on. So like, maybe they will write more in the future. All the Boys Want Blue too, because like, I would love to see even more of their experiences later in life, because this is very focused on early of George's life. But overall, just very good, very important, but just like a good story because you care so much. And I would recommend anyone to read this. It is approachable by anyone, especially since the writing is so open and approachable and not difficult at all. So like, yeah, all ages and everything. I think I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars because that was what it deserved. I don't even remember, but I feel like I did. So yay. Then the first challenge for January was called Fingers Crossed, and it was to continue a series, and if you haven't had any series you can continue, then start a new one. And I jumped right on it and continued with Wheel of Time. So I read Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan, and this one is book 10 in the Wheel of Time. And Wheel of Time follows many different things, but basically it follows these 3 boys from Emmonsfield, which is like a small weaver's village, and then this Aes Sedai shows up, who is a woman with power. She says, one of you might be the chosen one, the dragon reborn, let's go. And they go out on an adventure together. But there's many different more characters. It is a massive series, massive world. There are so many things in this that I cannot like just say. Has the chosen one trope, has the let's go on an adventure trope. And I'm on book 10, and overall, like, if you watched my January wrap up, you know that I didn't really enjoy this because nothing happened. We were in the sludge, and we basically just watching everyone just talk and setting up the pieces for something, but never actually getting anything out of it. So I did not enjoy this, but I have read the next book in the series. I read that one in January as well because I needed more audiobook, and that one, everything went down. Like, all the things we below up for the last like 3 books finally happened. So that one was like 4 out of 5 stars solid, but this one though was like 2 out of 5 stars because just nothing happened. Like, it felt like I was reading this and I was reading the book before, because it was just basically the same for all the different characters. So this was kind of like a waste of space, to be completely honest. I really felt like nothing happened, and it was very frustrating. So yay, no to this one. But overall, I do enjoy the series, but I can also see that it can be a lot to get through sometimes. The second challenge for January was called Seasonal Depression. It was to read a book with mental health and POC representation. So I read Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. Actually, I decided to listen to the audiobook because they used such a long time showing up my book on another one. But I listened to this in the audiobook because I saw that the author reads the audiobook. So then I just went for it, and it was a really good audiobook. So I don't regret it at all. And then literally the day I finished my audiobook, this one showed up. So I was just like, well, whatever. But yeah, so this is part memoir, part magic. It has central things from the author's life, I assume. The main character's name is Echo Brown, and the author's name is Echo Brown, so they share the same name. It has some magic in it, and like, you know, I don't know if magic is real or not. It should be, but like, yeah, obviously has magical aspects that I assume is fictional, but who knows. So we follow Echo, who lives in east side of Cleveland. Apartments are small and parents suffer addiction to the White Rocks. Yet there is magic everywhere. I'm sorry I'm reading synopsis, but like, I don't know how to describe this book. It says in the end, heavily autobiographical and infused with magical realism, Black-Girl Unlimited fearlessly explores the intersections of poverty, sexual violence, depression, racism, and sexism. So basically, I enjoyed this a lot. They had so many important themes and the magic was beautiful but also kind of sad. It was a sad book, but it had hope and it was enjoyable. But there were some parts of the writing that I kind of didn't enjoy that much, because like sometimes we were in a scene and then the scene changed mid-scene. I don't know how to describe it, but like we were in a scene and then the main character got flashbacks to another scene and we had these scenes parallel to each other. In the audiobook that got very confusing, but I can see that in the physical book it kind of like goes down a paragraph so you would know reading it that you are in a different scene, but in the audiobook that was a bit confusing. So I don't know what to blame there, but overall, like when you knew you were in two different scenes and it kept shifting, you got really used to it and it was fine. I didn't like also was that it was a bit like in some parts author really summarized, like it was like relationship with a certain character. The author used several pages to summarize their relationship and what was wrong with it. And of course I really like those deep reflections, seeing why a relationship, or like not like a romantic relationship at all, but like just a relationship in the main character's life, why that relationship didn't work, like they didn't listen, etc. And had many examples. But that was like you're from above and you reflect about something in your past, I don't know how to describe it, then you kind of went back to the plot and then you know about that relationship but you don't see it at once because the author's told you this in like a bit of reflection, but like it's like stepping back and then you go into the story again. It worked and you clearly got a good overview of like the different relationship, but it could also feel a bit, I don't know the right adjective because I don't know how to speak English. Like it felt a bit redundant, like a bit more of like telling, not showing. That's what I wanted to say. But except for those things, it was just a very powerful story. It was very sad and heartbreaking, of course, but it was just beautiful and just it hit really hard. I really liked many elements. I had to check on the dust jacket. There was something cool there. And it's definitely a book I would recommend. A really good magical realism, YA contemporary. I don't even know what to call it. It says the remarkable story of a teenage wizard. I agree. It was a remarkable story. And I get goosebumps thinking about it because it really hits. And there was just so much hope and nice things. And also horrible things, like truly horrible things. So like, yeah, check out trigger warnings for this book before picking it up. The next challenge was called Hot Rings, and it was to choose a book with a random number generator from your TBR. So I chose to do this with my whole TBR. You can see me doing that in like the TBR for the God of Thing for winter. And I chose True Blood. I think it was like True Blood number 2 or something, or 3, but I decided to read book number 1 again because I have read this many years ago, but I kind of forgotten everything. So I reread this. This is the only book in the series as well as I read. I have like 9 books, but I only read this one and then I decided to read this again. Great progress. And then I also decided to watch the TV show, so I watched like the 1st and 2nd season, and I kind of also want to continue the books, so to finish them since I had them literally for years. But yeah, seeing how the TV show and this, how they match, was just so interesting. Like it's very similar in the beginning. In the end they just like made some things up, but that's fine. What is True Blood about? I just assumed everyone knew. So it's follows Saki Stackhouse, who works as a waitress in Louisiana, in Bon Tom's as it's called, and she can read minds, but she doesn't know why, and then she can't read the minds of vampires because the vampires are out of the coffins, as you can call it. Everyone knows about vampires. Then she starts dating one called Bill, and yeah, there's also like murders happening and we don't know who it is or like why. So yeah, that's a thing. It's a lot of snow outside. It was very distracting, like right now. Sorry. That's what the first book covers, I guess. The thing about this is that, for the first of all, this is a Norwegian translation, so it's kind of weird to read it in that way. But also it's written, I don't really know how to describe it. It's written very badly. It just feels very, very trashy. It does not expand or explore anything in a book. It just like kind of happens. So like, I don't know how to describe it, but like some of the scenes is impossible to imagine because they literally don't explain how anything looks like, how anything is going on. It just like kind of happens and then it's over. And it's so short as well. Like it doesn't feel and build up any suspense whatsoever because it's just like happens. I don't really know how to describe it because I don't know words, but I don't know how the English version is obviously, but like assume like this is translated, it's supposed to be accurate, but like it's just very like the sentences are weird and the writing is weird. It feels also very young in the writing, but the themes are super mature. So it's kind of like a disconnect where like it feels like I'm reading a middle grade in the writing, but it is an adult vampire book with like loads of sex and blood and murder. That is what confuses me the most about this. I've totally forgotten that the writing was like this. I remember reading it, I didn't really think about those things. But now I do. But the story is fun. I love the vampires. I do have a special heart for the TV show inside of me because it was in the area of when I loved TV series a lot. But like the book was, I give it like 3 out of 5 stars because I do enjoy the elements. Also, I hated Saki before, but now I love her because she's like a sweet, innocent girl and also badass at the same time. So that is awesome. Yay! What more to say? I do not know. The last challenge for January was called Power Nap, and it was to choose a sci-fi book by a black author with a black main character, and I chose Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum. And this one was so good. I'm itching. I think thinking about it and I just loved it so much. So this one follows Ryan, and her parents passed away. She lives with her brother and his baby, and she also has this very weird friend group where like no one of them had really a place, but then they all just came together. And then this new girls at school starts called Alexandria, and Alexandria is the daughter of this other, well, she's not a young teen anymore, but her mother was one of the few chosen to go into space 19 years ago. So they chose teens specifically because they didn't want them to have that many connections and stuff, and you basically were sent into space to get information in space, but it was never a return trip. So you're just gonna travel as far as you go, and then yeah, you're not gonna see them again. And she got a baby right before leaving, and then yeah, there was a lot of shit going on. And Alexandria is the daughter of that person who was really famous. There was a big case about it. Ryan helps her with stuff, and they form a deep relationship and more of romance. Just saying, we follow just like that family feeling that your mother is out there and you can never see her kind of again. It's very interesting. I'm getting goosebumps because it was just so good. Oh my god, I have the Dutch stick on the wrong way. What is even life? It was just so good. The friendship was amazing. The story was touching and beautiful. And it was just about like opportunities and space and adventure, but also just like loss, abandonment, and just many different things. Okay, many different things. My main complaint is that some scenes felt a bit weird to me because like we get explained a thing, and then later we get to explain the same thing again but in a new thing, and then we get to explain the same thing again in a new thing. I don't know how to describe that, but like we kind of get explained the same story 3-4 times, and it's like how it was written, I do not know how to describe it, but it was how it was written was like we didn't know the last time, or we did know, and then like it was like we added things that we already knew. So we're just like, oh, now we're gonna get an explanation for this, but we already knew everything that they were saying, so it just felt a bit pointless. So those scenes like made me disconnect so much that I was just like, what is going on right now? Because I had this weird feeling when reading those, but it was just like, I think a me thing, not anything with the book. So ignore I said that and pretend I didn't have it, but I felt like sharing it. And just overall the end made me actually cry because it was so beautiful. My heart could not take it. I loved the end with everything I got. It was just so sweet, and yeah, I'm getting so many goosebumps. Can you even see? I don't know. But overall the ending was one of the most perfect endings I read, and it was just so beautiful and romantic, and yeah, it was just so solid. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Recommend it so much. Gay, space, with beautiful themes. So pick this up. I think it has some connection to The Wicked King as well, which is by the same author. I think one of the kids in the friend group is the son of the people here, because I read that somewhere and I was just like, really? And I was so shocked. So that was a thing. Then we have in February, which is the month we are in, but I already finished all the books for the challenge, so I could film this a bit early, yay! The first challenge for February was called Listen. It was to choose an LGBTQ plus book, not set in the United States, with a black author and a black main character. I read An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. I actually listened to this on audiobook. We are set on this ship called Matilda. We are going to the promised land, but yeah, it's been a while, so we are still just traversing in space. We follow Aster, who is like on the lowest, because like on the lower deck it's like poor people, etc., and then going upwards is more rich people and stuff. And she's on the lower decks, and she is also though an apprentice for the surgeon, who is like one of the highest of high, so she does have some privileges to being his apprentice. Shit happens. We see how the people on the ship are treated, especially black people and just people, you know, being on the lower decks. We see how Aster grew up, we see new relationship forming, and maybe, you know, a little rebellion is brewing because things are shit there, okay? Story carried many parts. I really enjoyed overall everything. Finding out Aster's background, finding out how the ship worked, her relationship with the surgeon Theo, and just the whole dynamics in the whole book. It very much reflects, you know, our real world and how it is in many places still. I just felt like the middle part maybe dragged a bit, but overall the conclusion was interesting, I would say. I'm really curious for what really happened like after the end. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I'm really curious. I just read this and I don't know what to say about it. But yeah, many of the characters were queer, and it was a solid book, okay? It was a solid book. I'm very excited to read more of River Solomon's books. Yeah, I'm excited that I have started on them now, and I feel like I was very bad at talking about this. It has a lot, okay? And you definitely see just so many good elements in it. So yeah, I already said that, so I'm just gonna move up because I'm sorry. 4 out of 5 stars, yay! The next challenge was called BLM, and it was to choose a book with LGBT representation set in the United States with a black author and a black main character. I chose Legendborn Tracy Dion. This one is an Arthurian retelling. So we have these people who are Legendborn, and they are kind of the descendants of like Arthur and his knights, like they're descendants of his knights, and then they kind of get called by them and they kind of get their abilities and traits that they had. That's very interesting. We follow Bree, who just lost her mother and has now started this, like, I don't think it's a college, but it's called like a residential program for bright high schoolers as UNC Chapel Hill. So it's not a college, it's like a high school, but you live there. And her mother used to go there, and then she finds out that maybe there are some details about her mother that is suspicious, and she wants to investigate this. So she joins kind of with the Legendborn to find out this. And yeah, she's right away the only black girl there, and they're all white, and they're like, so that was interesting dynamics, not just interesting, but kind of, you know, interesting to read. Then we have this dude calling himself a Merlin with magic, and then they also have like a self-exiled Legendborn called Nick, who is like, yeah, helping her. He was her Dorian, and basically this felt a lot like, for example, Shadowhunters, and I really like that. It was like a very Shadowhunter feel. The main character finds out about this magical world she may or may not have been a part of all along, and it was just like very going throwback to like that kind of way, like Mortal Instruments and like all the other ones, and I love that. It was just such a nice feel. I can't even speak. It was just so good learning about this world and just seeing all these relationships established, and you know, it was kind of like a little threesome drama, and I am all for it. Like, it wasn't even stupid. I am just like, yeah, it was like good boy bad boy thing, and I have missed that kind of, because like we made, I think like we basically made it into a meme where like the main character has to choose between like good or bad boy in like all the classic older YAs, and now like Tracy brought it back, and it was just so good. It was just so solid. My main complaint is that it was a lot of info dump. It was very much like, ask questions, I will ask, we will explain, and it was so much world building that I like, my brain couldn't even like take it in at all. So yeah, I really don't like info dumping, but it is also a way to like, how else are you gonna establish what's happening? But yeah, it's just so much setup here, also for like, you know, it's a series, but like future book, it's just like so many different elements of magic that she finds out about. Also, I thought that it was like bi MC, that's why I chose this. I thought that Brie was bi, but I wasn't confirmed that she was or wasn't, but it was another character that was bi. So it wasn't like the POV character, but it was still a main character. So that was what I went on. But I thought it was Brie, but apparently, as far as I know by reading this, unless I missed something, it's not Brie who was bi. But one of the other characters are bi. So that's nice. Also, her best friend, Alice, who is also Asian, is a lesbian. So yeah, just solid. I never mark books, ever, by the way, with markers thingies. But I did it in this for a certain line, and I cannot read it. I screamed, and I would keep it forever because I really needed it. And yeah, that says a lot. I was invested, okay? It was just solid. It was original, had really cool concept, and I'm ready for more, okay? I'm ready for more. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I enjoyed it a lot. Yay! The third challenge was called Proud, and it was to choose a book with a black main character and a black author that has your favorite color on the cover. And my favorite color is, as always, purple. So I had chosen The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This one is like purple, but also blue and other colors, so yeah, but it has purple there, so that counts. This one I did not know anything about. I knew it was queer and it was sci-fi, and that's it. And then I read it, and it's like an alien book, and I was like, oh my god, so like the alien has invaded, people are like trapped in their houses because they are going to be used for a certain thing, and it's like all art and all like anything creative is like taken away from them because like it can help them rebel, but taking away from them doesn't really help them, did it? But either way, and a main character, what's her name, Ellie, has collected a little library, and she delivers out books to people, but it's a secret because that would be bad. So then she meets Morris, and he's an alien, like she knows this at once, and he wants music, so she helps him getting music, and then she's almost executed, and then he saves her, and then they go out on a run together. Overall, I really enjoyed the setup of this book. I love all the references to known books I know about, and like a lot of YA references, which is really interesting with the alien invasion. What did they really want? And these two characters interacting. It's also told from both of the characters' point of view, so that was also really interesting. Just learning more about these aliens was just very, very fascinating and good, because like it was very original and fun. But there was frustrations. I was so upset actually, because in the beginning it almost felt like a 5-star, at least 4-star read, but it did not end up being that. It just fell apart, and I am so upset about it. For me, it fell apart. By the way, both of the main characters, as I assumed, is pansexual, so can we appreciate that? There is that. The story kind of fell apart because they were on the road, and then it was just like, oh, this thing happened, and then they continue, and then this thing happened again, and they continue, and it was just like so flat. Like the story kind of just staggered for them to just interact and stuff, and there were some really cute and beautiful moments there. I'm not denying that at all. It just flew away from me. Like we had this amazing grand story with aliens and them doing this horrible thing to people, and then we just like came down to these two people. I don't know how to describe it. I don't mean to say that we didn't need to follow these people, or that we couldn't follow their story, and that we don't need to follow a billion characters, but it just felt like nothing was explored to that point where it felt realistic to me. It didn't feel like we explored or explained the bigger details to make it this grander story. But I know in the end, like, it was a love story between these two people, and that is also okay. But it wasn't even enough the romance. I didn't even feel like these two characters had any dynamic, connection whatsoever. It just felt like these two people were conveniently put together, and for me, I didn't make sense for why they care so much about each other, at least in such a short time. I really think Morris was an interesting character though, seeing how his home life like has affected him and how he was different from the other people liked him, and I see that he was never like the others, and that is why he could become and care as he did. So I accept that. But it's just, in the end, we don't even get the conclusion to the story, kind of. They have a certain time thing to do a thing, and then it ends before we actually see them do that thing. And it just felt like we ended on like a cliffhanger, because we don't actually get to see the conclusion on what happens after everything they have done. And I didn't really know why the author ended like that. I feel like either like this is the first book, or like it's like everything will be okay, you know, it will be okay to the reader. That's the message they give us. But it didn't feel earned. That feeling did not feel earned, if that is the message they want to give, unless like there's a sequel coming. It says on the cover, can their love of pop books and pop music save the world? It has this feeling that like it is central around these two people. But again, I didn't mean to say that it couldn't be. It was just, I wasn't even convinced of their relationship. It was hard for me to follow this relationship while all the other things are happening. But yeah, overall I did enjoy the beginning a lot and seeing this world, how it was set up. And I did enjoy the characters on their own. I was just not convinced that they could be together. But yeah, I ended up like enjoying it a lot in the beginning, and then I felt like the story fell apart for me. So that was a bit sad, but I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. It's not like I hated it or anything like that. It just was not for me, I think. It's not the kind of story in this setting that felt for me. Also like with aliens and stuff, it didn't feel explored enough to be convincing for me. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say, I think. Let's go to the next one, which is actually the last one. The last challenge was called Important. Choose a contemporary book with a black author and a black main character, published in 2019 or 2020. For this one, I had chosen Dear Justice by Nick Stone. This one is a sequel to Dear Martin, and Dear Martin was a story about Justice who was handcuffed for no reason at all, and also another tragedy in his life happens later in the book. I don't even know if that's a spoiler, so yeah. But we see him ending up okay because he was like in a position where he could go to a really good school and a position to have more opportunities just because he was like the smartest one in class, etc. And Nick Stone wanted to write a story about Quran, who is mentioned I think in Dear Martin. They used to be friends, Justice and Quran, but Quran had different opportunities in his life. He was not the smartest one, and we can see him being in a completely different situation than Justice, who is now studies law at Yale University, while Quran sits in regional youth detention center charged with murder. But is Quran a killer? Do we know? That's the story for find out. But it's also just the first book, Justice writes a letter to Martin Luther King Jr. and here Quran writes a letter to Justice, and it's just very, very nice seeing their friendship blossom up again and just seeing his story. So yeah, we follow like Quran from a young age, seeing where we ended up and seeing all the elements of his life working against him. Poverty, abuse, being black, so many things, and it was just very emotional, very important to see and read these kinds of stories because it's so relevant to the world. I'm just looking in the book. It's very short, only like 200 pages, same with Dear Martin. So even if like you should pick this up just because it's an important books, and also it doesn't take you ages. So bonus points for those two. Emotional, with hope, but also just, you know, seeing these perspectives are so important. It had a lot of pain, but there's also light moments in darkness. I don't know what to tell you. It's a good book. I have read a couple of Nick Stone's books now, and I enjoyed every single one of them. So they're all great. But yeah, it just flew past, read it in one sitting, and I must read, as Angie Thomas said here on the cover. Can we appreciate while we are here how Dear Martin and Dear Justice, which is the new cover because this had another cover before, just like how they look at each other when you put them together, and it looks great. Okay, I really appreciate this look, and I'm kind of glad I waited buying a physical edition of Dear Martin, because if I had the old cover and then I got this one and then I could have had this, I would have been upset. I struggle talking. Also my brain is fried because I've been here too long. So yeah, I also like when I read things, I'm just like, oh my god, I have all these thoughts I need to remember to say it in my wrap up, and I forget, so I am sorry. But that is it for Got a Thing for winter. Got a Thing for spring is coming very, very soon. I hope you will join me. I hope you enjoy my incoherent thoughts about these books as per usual, and you see me soon in a new video. Leave a orange heart emoji down below if you like this, and you will see me soon. Goodbye.